Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're taking a close look at a pretty significant part of the healthcare world, though maybe one that doesn't always grab the headlines.
That's right. We're talking about the global market for ostomy drainage bags.
Exactly. And we're working from a really comprehensive market report. This one's from Cognitive Market Research.
And it gives us some solid numbers. It projects this market will hit USD $268 million in 2025.
Which is a pretty hefty sum. So what we really want to dig into today is what's actually driving this.
What are the key trends? What's shaping the growth?
Yeah. And maybe what does this tell us, people trying to stay informed about the bigger picture, about health needs, medical tech, that kind of thing globally.
Definitely.
So USD $268 million for 2025. That's the starting point. But where's it going? Does the report look further ahead?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where it gets quite interesting. It's not just static.
Right.
The projection for 2033 is USD $306.80 million.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
So a definite upward trend.
A strong one. That kind of consistent growth, well, it really underlines that there's a fundamental and actually increasing need for these devices.
It's not just stable, it's actively expanding. Does the report quantify that growth, like with a CAGR?
It does, yeah. The compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, is pegged at 4.60% for the period between 2025 and 2033.
4.60%.
And that steady climb year after year, it just reinforces that this isn't some tiny niche.
No.
It's a major global market. And unfortunately, it reflects a growing need for these kinds of medical solutions.
Yeah, that sort of predictable growth, even with, economies going up and down.
Exactly. It points to how essential these products are for the people who rely on them day to day.
Makes total sense. So let's talk about the drivers. What's fueling this? What are the engines behind this market growth, according to the report?
Well, there are several key factors. A really big one is the increasing prevalence of colorectal diseases.
Okay.
Conditions affecting the colon, the rectum. These often need surgery, leading to ostomies.
And we're seeing more of these conditions.
It seems so. Factors like aging populations, maybe lifestyle changes, they contribute. So more conditions mean more surgeries and, well, more need for drainage bags.
Right, so shifts in global health patterns are a major piece of the puzzle. What else? You mentioned aging populations. Is that a covered driver too?
It is, definitely. A rising geriatric population is another big one.
Okay.
Older individuals are often more susceptible to conditions like diabetes, for instance, which can sometimes lead to situations requiring an ostomy.
And with people living longer worldwide.
Precisely. That demographic trend isn't going away. It's likely to keep fueling demand for quite some time.
So we've got disease prevalence, aging. Are there other forces? The report mentioned something about governments or healthcare systems.
Yes, and that's a really critical point. Government initiatives and general healthcare support for ostomy care, they play a huge role.
How so?
Well, think about reimbursement policies. If insurance or national health systems cover the cost, it makes the bags much more accessible. Plus, you have things like programs to improve access to specialized care, patient education, support groups. When governments and healthcare systems invest in this area,
It directly boosts the market.
it boosts the market, yes, but more importantly, it makes these essential products available to the people who need them. It improves lives.
So it's this mix of medical trends, demographics, and policy all pushing in the same direction.
Very much, yeah.
Okay, but it can't all be smooth sailing. Are there things holding the market back? Any restraints or challenges mentioned?
Yes, definitely. Despite the growth, there are hurdles. One major one is simply the cost.
Affordability.
Exactly. These ostomy bags and the related treatments, they can be expensive.
Right.
And that high cost can be a real barrier for a lot of people, especially, in places with less developed healthcare or for those without good insurance.
Yeah, that can create real disparities in care.
It absolutely can. It impacts access, quality of life, potentially even outcomes. It's a serious consideration.
Makes sense. What else? Any other roadblocks?
The report also points to a shortage of trained professionals.
Oh, like specialized nurses.
Exactly. Ostomy care nurses specifically are crucial. They provide essential education, support, guidance, both before and after surgery.
Right.
But you also need enough surgeons familiar with the procedures, other healthcare staff, if there aren't enough trained people.
Then even if the products are available, patients might not get the best care or support.
Precisely. It can limit proper adoption and management. So yeah, cost and the availability of skilled care are the main restraints highlighted.
Okay. So growth is happening, but access and expertise are key challenges to keep in mind. Now let's shift focus a bit. What about emerging trends? What's new or changing in this market?
There are a couple really interesting ones. One is this growing demand for, well, both disposable and eco-friendly options.
Disposable and eco-friendly. That sounds
Yeah.
potentially contradictory.
Right. But it reflects, I think, a more sophisticated user base. People want the convenience and hygiene of disposables. But they're also increasingly aware of the environmental impact. So there's this push for innovation in materials and designs that can, ideally, satisfy both needs.
Huh. That's actually fascinating. Eco-consciousness, even in medical devices like this.
It really shows how widespread that awareness is becoming, doesn't it? It's pushing manufacturers to think differently.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Any other major trends? Anything about how care is delivered?
Yes. Another key trend is the expansion of home healthcare services.
Okay.
And alongside that, better patient education programs. It signals a shift towards more patient-centric care.
Empowering people to manage things at home.
Exactly. Helping individuals manage their ostomies effectively, comfortably in their own environment. This is supported by, easier-to-use products, digital resources, online support communities.
So a move towards more convenience, more sustainability, and putting the patient more in control.
That seems to be the direction, yes.
All right, that gives us a good feel for the dynamics. Let's zoom out again and look at the map, the regional breakdown. Where's the biggest market share right now?
Okay, so as of 2025, North America is the leader. It holds about 37% of the global market.
37%. And the value was?
Around USD 802.16 million for 2025.
Got it. And within North America?
The U.S. is the dominant force there, projected at USD 632.90 million in 2025.
Okay.
Driven by, advanced healthcare, pretty widespread insurance, and unfortunately high rates of those colorectal diseases we mentioned.
Right. And Canada and Mexico?
Also significant contributors. Canada actually has a slightly higher projected growth rate than the U.S., maybe linked to its aging population and the government-funded healthcare system. Mexico is also seeing growth, driven by increasing awareness and better accessibility.
Okay, so North America leads. Who's number 2? Europe.
Spot on. Europe comes in second with about 29% of the market share.
And the value there?
That translates to roughly USD 628.72 million for 2025.
Okay. Big players in Europe.
Yeah, you've got the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Russia, each with its own specific market drivers.
Like what?
Things like different reimbursement policies, varying levels of gastrointestinal disease incidence. For example, the UK is expected to have pretty strong growth, partly thanks to its reimbursement setup and disease rates. Germany benefits from having key manufacturers based there and a strong healthcare system overall.
So a mature market, but with some internal variations.
Exactly. Generally, steady growth across the region, but definitely country-specific nuances.
All right. North America, Europe.
Yeah.
But I think you mentioned earlier that the fastest growth is expected elsewhere.
Yes, absolutely. Keep an eye on Asia-Pacific, APAC.
Okay. What's their share now, and what's the growth looking like?
Their share in 2025 is estimated around 24%, which is about USD 520.32 million.
Still significant.
Very. But the really striking number is the projected CAGR, 7.3% between 2025 and 2033.
Wow, 7.3%. That's much higher than the global average.
Exactly. It's the fastest growing region by a clear margin.
What's driving that boom in APAC?
It's a combination of factors. Rapid urbanization in many countries. Unfortunately, rising rates of certain cancers like colorectal and significant ongoing investment in healthcare infrastructure.
Especially the big economies.
Right. Think China and India. They are major forces behind this regional growth.
Does the report single out any country there for particularly high growth?
It does. India is projected to have the highest CAGR in the region, an impressive 9.2%.
9.2%. Why so high in India?
Again, a mix of things. Expanding healthcare facilities, better public awareness about ostomy care, plus that growing elderly population factor.
Okay. And China.
China already has a large market size and is still showing very strong growth, around 6.8% CAGR. Japan, South Korea, Australia, they're also important markets contributing to this overall APAC surge.
It really sounds like the center of gravity for growth in this market might be shifting eastward.
It certainly looks that way. A lot of potential, but also, challenges that come with rapid expansion in diverse healthcare landscapes.
Makes sense. What about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa? Smaller shares, I assume?
Yes, smaller shares currently, but still showing decent growth potential. South America has about 4% share in 2025, projected CAGR of 5.3%.
Key markets there.
Brazil and Argentina are highlighted.
Hmm.
Brazil, for instance, benefits from government initiatives and rising gastrointestinal issues.
Okay. Middle East.
Also around 4% share, but slightly faster growth projected at 5.9% CAGR.
Driven by.
Increasing cancer diagnoses, better healthcare access in places like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Turkey's also showing strong growth potential with healthcare expansion.
I had Africa.
The smallest share, about 2.2% in 2025, with a projected CAGR of 4.9%.
Main market.
South Africa is the largest currently, driven by colorectal disease rates and infrastructure improvements. Nigeria is also mentioned. The rest of Africa collectively shows growth too, often linked to gradual healthcare improvements and rising awareness.
So really different stories depending on where you look globally.
Yeah.
Healthcare needs, economic conditions, it all plays in.
Absolutely. The regional analysis really underscores that diversity.
Now, let's dive into the products themselves. The report segments by type, right? Colostomy versus ileostomy bags.
Yes, it does. And right now, colostomy bags are the dominant segment. They hold the larger market share.
Why is that?
It mostly comes down to the prevalence of the surgeries. Colostomies are performed more often, typically for conditions like colorectal cancer or certain inflammatory bowel diseases.
Okay, so volume dictates the current share. But is that changing?
Well, what's interesting is the growth rate. The report identifies ileostomy bags as the fastest growing segment.
Faster growth for ileostomy bags. What's behind that?
It seems to be driven by an increase in surgeries for conditions like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, which more often require an ileostomy.
Ah,
Plus, there have been ongoing improvements in ileostomy bag design, making them more comfortable, more functional, easier to use. That likely boosts their adoption, too.
so colostomy bags lead now, but ileostomy bags are catching up faster, reflecting shifts in surgical trends and product tech.
Exactly. It's a dynamic picture.
The report also slices the market by usage, doesn't it? Single-use versus multi-use.
Yes. And here, single-use bags are currently the dominant category.
Why the preference for single-use?
It mainly boils down to convenience and hygiene. They're easy to use, easy to dispose of, and they minimize the risk of infection, which is obviously crucial. Many patients and healthcare providers just prefer that simplicity and perceived safety.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But is that the whole story? Is the multi-use segment growing?
It is. And interestingly, similar to the ileostomy segment, the multi-use segment is identified as the fastest growing in terms of usage type.
Okay, another situation where the smaller segment is growing faster. Why are multi-use bags gaining traction?
Two main reasons seem to be driving this: sustainability and cost effectiveness.
Ah, connecting back to that eco-friendly trend.
Exactly. There's definitely a growing awareness about the waste generated by single-use medical products. Multi-use bags offer a potentially greener alternative.
And the cost.
Over the long term, especially for someone living with an ostomy permanently, the cost of constantly buying single-use bags can add up. If multi-use bags are durable and safe,
They can offer significant savings.
potentially, yes. And as the technology for cleaning and maintaining them improves, they become a more viable and attractive option for more people.
So you have this interesting tension. Single-use dominates for hygiene and convenience, but multi-use is gaining ground fast because of environmental and cost concerns.
That's a great way to put it. It's an evolving dynamic to watch.
Definitely. Okay, finally, let's talk about the companies actually making these products. Who are the key players in this competitive landscape?
It's quite a competitive market, as you'd expect. The report names companies like Hollister Incorporated, Coloplash, and Convatec as major players.
The big names.
Yes, these companies are really investing heavily in innovation, constantly trying to improve their products, and also expanding their manufacturing to meet that growing global demand we've been talking about.
What kind of innovations are they focusing on? What's the R&D direction?
A lot of it is focused squarely on the patient experience. Improving comfort, better odor control, that's a big one.
I can imagine.
Also, better skin protection technologies to prevent irritation around the stoma, making the bags easier to apply and remove, making them more discreet under clothing.
Practical,
Very practical. And as we've touched on, there's that increasing focus on developing more sustainable, eco-friendly options too. That's becoming a key competitive factor.
Does the report give any specific recent examples of what these companies are up to?
It does, actually. Some quite recent ones. For instance, Coloplast, just in May 2024, got UK reimbursement for something called Halo.
Hello?
Yeah, it's a digital system that actually notifies the user about potential leakage. Very innovative. They also launched new color and shape options for their Sensura Mio line to improve patient choice and discretion.
Wow, digital integration. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, Orient Med, in January 2024, launched a new bag design focused on flexibility and patented odor control. It's undergoing trials now. And another one, Ostique, also in January 2024, secured funding for their bags, which aim to reduce noise, improve adhesion, control odor, and they're developing a digital platform called Ostique Connect for overall patient well-being support.
So it's not just about the bag itself anymore. It's about leakage detection, noise reduction, digital support platforms.
Exactly. The innovation is moving towards a more holistic approach, looking at the entire patient experience and integrating technology.
That really shows how dynamic this market is. Competition is driving real improvements.
Absolutely. And these companies also focus heavily on partnering with healthcare providers and investing in patient education. That's crucial for getting the products used correctly and effectively.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. We've really unpacked this global ostomy drainage bag market using this detailed report,
Yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar market showing consistent growth.
driven by those big factors.
Yeah.
Rising colorectal diseases, aging populations, increasing healthcare support globally.
And we saw the regional picture, North America leading now, but Asia Pacific, especially India, growing incredibly fast.
Plus those interesting trends, the move towards eco-friendly options, the rise of multi-use bags, the faster growth in ileostomy solutions.
And the intense competition driving innovation, not just in the physical product, but in digital integration and patient support too.
It paints a really comprehensive picture. So to wrap up, maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider.
Given everything we've discussed, the projected growth, this intense focus on patient comfort and well-being, the integration of digital tech,
How might the actual lived experience of having an ostomy fundamentally change over the next, say, 10 years?
what kind of unexpected innovations might we see? Things that go beyond just improving the bag itself, maybe integrating more seamlessly into daily life or offering entirely new forms of support.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.